Welcome to Chinese History and Mythology.
Hey friends, welcome back to Chinese History and Mythology. Last week, we finally finished the book Romance of the Three Kingdoms. From the Yellow Turban Rebellion, Dong Zhu's chaos in government, and the division of power among the warlords, to the Battle of Red Cliffs, the three-way division of the realm, and then to the fall of Shu Han, the Sima family's usurpation of Wei, and the Three Kingdoms returning to Jin, this long story has taken us through an age when a dynasty collapsed, heroes rose one after another, and the whole realm was reshuffled. But although Romance of the Three Kingdoms is finished, the Three Kingdoms themselves are far from finished, because in this period of history, there are too many figures who do not belong only to the novel. They live both in the story of Romance of the Three Kingdoms and in the historical records of the Three Kingdoms. They were shaped by later literature, and they were also rewritten again and again by folk legends, opera, storytelling, and popular memory. So next, we will slowly shift our focus from the Three Kingdoms in the novel to the Three Kingdoms in history. We will no longer only look at how Luo Guanzhong wrote these figures. Instead, we will try to return to earlier historical texts and see what kind of people they really were in actual history. And the first person we cannot avoid is Cao Cao. In Romance of the Three Kingdoms, Cao Cao is often written as a treacherous hero, suspicious, ruthless, skilled in political tricks, and always standing opposite Liu Bei's image of benevolence and righteousness. For many Chinese audiences, when they hear the name Cao Cao from childhood, what appears in their minds is often not simply a politician or a military strategist, but a complicated, dangerous, intelligent, and even somewhat frightening figure. But if we return to records of the Three Kingdoms and to real history, was Cao Cao really only a villain? Was he a hero, a treacherous hero, or a traitor? Why did he leave such a contradictory image in Chinese popular memory? Why do some people dislike him, some people admire him, and some people believe that he was actually the clearest-minded and most capable person of the Three Kingdoms era? In today's episode, we will temporarily step away from the novel narrative of Romance of the Three Kingdoms and use a way that is closer to history, and also closer to a modern perspective, to look again at Cao Cao in records of the Three Kingdoms. Let's begin with a very interesting phenomenon. Around the time of the Northern Song Dynasty, the great writer Su Dongpo recorded a scene from ordinary street life. Storytellers in the markets and alleys would tell stories of the Three Kingdoms, and the common people below would listen as if completely enchanted. When the story reached the part where Liu Bei won a battle, everyone would be especially happy, with smiles all over their faces. But when the story reached the part where Cao Cao suffered a defeat, the whole crowd would clap and cheer, even happier than if they were celebrating a festival. You see, this at least shows that more than 1,000 years ago, Cao Cao was already not a very likable person. But if you walk into any bookstore in China and open a serious history book about the Three Kingdoms, you will find that many serious historians speak in his defense. Lu Xun once said very directly that Cao Cao was a capable man, at the very least a hero. Although Lu Xun did not belong to Cao Cao's side, he admired him deeply in his heart. So this becomes very contradictory. In popular memory, people call him a treacherous villain. Scholars call him a hero. And in historical writing, there is also the middle ground term, treacherous hero. So what kind of person was Cao Cao really? Behind these labels, are we seeing real human nature or a misunderstanding that has wronged him for 1,800 years? In today's episode, let's return together to the late Eastern Han, an age filled with war, where human life was treated like grass, and use both stories and historical sources to take another look at this Cao Cao, a man so complex that he becomes fascinating. The family Cao Cao was born into was actually a little awkward in that era. His father, Cao Song, rose to the office of Grand Commandant, roughly equivalent to a Minister of Defense. This was a very high office, but this position came from the political legacy left by his grandfather Cao Teng, and to a large extent it had been bought with money. Even more importantly, Cao Teng was a powerful eunuch in the palace. In the Eastern Han, a society that cared deeply about family background and the so-called pure reputation of the scholar official class, the people scholar officials looked down on the most were eunuchs. They believed eunuchs were physically incomplete, psychologically dark, and nothing more than petty men, who only knew how to flatter the emperor. Cao Cao was the third generation of just such a eunuch family. Even worse, his father Cao Song was not Cao Teng's biological son, but an adopted son from the Aho family. In other words, Cao Cao carried two labels that people loved to point at and criticize: descendant of a eunuch and member of a family that bought office. But Cao Cao, as a person, seems to have cared very little about these things from childhood. The historical records say that when he was young, he acted like a roaming knight, lived freely and wildly, and did not concern himself with proper work. Every day he flew hawks, ran hounds, and wandered about without restraint, like a young adventurer. He was completely unlike the kind of well-behaved good student who studied properly. His uncle became very anxious when he saw him like this, and often went to his father Cao Song to complain. "Your son is causing trouble outside again. You really need to discipline him properly." Cao Cao knew very clearly that if this continued, his carefree days would be over. He had to think of a way. One day from far away, he saw his uncle coming. Suddenly, he twisted his face, crooked his mouth, and fell to the ground with a thump, pretending that he had suffered a stroke. His uncle was terrified and quickly ran to find Cao Song, saying that Cao Cao had suffered a stroke. Cao Song became extremely worried and hurried over, but when he looked, Cao Cao was standing there perfectly fine, his face healthy and full of color, with nothing wrong at all. Cao Song asked in confusion, "Your uncle said you had a stroke. What happened?" Cao Cao looked completely innocent and said, "I was never sick. It is only because uncle does not like me that he keeps making up stories about me in front of you." From then on, Cao Song no longer believed his younger brother's complaints, and Cao Cao became completely free. You see, before he was even 20, he had already shown that extremely alert, decisive quality, and that ability to see through human weakness at a glance. He did not argue with you. He did not need to defend himself. With just one performance, he turned the entire passive situation around. When Cao Cao was young, he actually had no intention of fighting for the realm. His earliest dream was simply to be a good official, a capable minister who could maintain the order of the empire and protect the common people. When he was 20, he was recommended as Northern Commandant of Luoyang, roughly equivalent today to the Public Security Bureau chief of a district in the capital. At that time, Luoyang was the capital of the empire. Imperial relatives, powerful nobles, and high officials gathered there, and public order was extremely chaotic. No one dared to control them. After Cao Cao took office, he hung more than 10 five-colored heavy staffs on both sides of the government office and announced that no matter who broke the law, they would be beaten to death with these staffs. Once, the uncle of the eunuch most favored by Emperor Ling of Han relied on his power and broke the law. Cao Cao showed no mercy and directly had him beaten to death with clubs. This incident made Cao Cao's reputation rise greatly, but it also offended powerful people, so he was openly promoted but secretly demoted and transferred away from the capital. Later, Cao Cao was sent to Jinan to serve as its chancellor, roughly equivalent today to a mayor and city party secretary. At that time, Jinan had more than 10 counties. Local officials colluded with powerful families, corruption was everywhere, and they had also built many shrines to pretend to communicate with spirits and extort wealth from the people. After Cao Cao took office, he immediately submitted a memorial to the court, dismissed 80% of the corrupt officials, and destroyed all the illegal shrines. Cao Cao's swift and decisive actions completely changed public order in Jinan. But precisely because of this, he once again offended the powerful people at court. Cao Cao realized that inside such a rotten system, no matter how hard he worked, he could not achieve his political ambitions and might even bring fatal danger upon himself. So he simply claimed illness, resigned from office, and returned to his hometown.
But even though his behavior looked wild and undisciplined, some truly perceptive people at the time could still see that he was different from everyone else. Back then, there was a highly respected, famous minister named Qiao Xuan, who rose to the office of Grand Commandant. The first time he met Cao Cao, he was greatly shocked and said something very weighty to him. The realm is about to fall into chaos. Without an extraordinary talent born for the age, it cannot be saved. The one who can bring peace to it may be you. In other words, the world was about to enter a time of great disorder, and only a rare genius destined for such an age could clean up the situation. And the person who could bring peace to the world was probably Cao Cao. Qiao Xuan did not just praise him with empty words. He gave Cao Cao a real suggestion that would change his fate. You do not have much reputation yet. You should go to Runan and find Su Shao. Let him give you an evaluation. Su Shao and his cousin Su Jing held a character evaluation event in Runan called the Monthly Critique. Anyone who received one good comment from them would immediately become far more valuable and famous throughout the country. After Cao Cao heard this, he brought gifts and went. He asked Su Shao humbly, "Sir, what kind of person do you think I am?" Su Shao ignored him completely. Why? Because Su Shao was the kind of lofty, famous scholar who looked down on Cao Cao's background and behavior from the bottom of his heart, so he did not even want to comment. But what kind of person was Cao Cao? He was not someone who would simply accept being shut out. He found a chance and, half pleading and half forcing, pushed Su Shao to speak. Su Shao was pestered until he had no choice, so he gave the famous judgment that has been passed down for centuries. In a peaceful age, you would be a capable minister. In a chaotic age, you would be a treacherous hero. In a time of peace, you would be a very talented official. In this age of disorder, you would become a treacherous hero. This sentence was almost like a stroke of divine insight. It was so accurate that for the next 1800 years, everyone's impression of Fa Fusao could never escape these three words, treacherous hero. So when Fa Fusao heard this evaluation, how did he react? The historical records give two words. He laughed loudly. This was not an awkward laugh from someone who had lost face. It was open, hearty laughter. Why did he laugh? Because perhaps he felt that Su Shao had seen something deep in his bones. He was not willing to let those false moral rules tie his hands and feet. He wanted to achieve a great cause in this chaotic age. As for whether he was a capable minister or a treacherous hero, he simply did not care. From the very beginning, this part of him was already decided at the age of 20. Cao Cao was recommended as filial and incorrupt and officially entered government service. His first office was Northern Commandant of Luoyang, roughly equivalent to the police chief of the northern district of the capital, Luoyang. Luoyang was the place beneath the emperor's feet. Imperial relatives, nobles, and powerful officials were everywhere. Their family members and servants broke the law without fear, and even the night curfew could not control them. After Cao Cao took office, he had more than 10 five-colored staffs made and hung them at the gate of the office. He posted a notice: anyone who violates the night curfew, whether powerful or not, will be beaten to death with the staff. No matter who you were, no matter how strong your background was, if you dared wander the streets at night, you would be beaten to death. Many people thought this was just a bluff from a new official trying to show authority, but of course someone refused to believe it. At that time, Jian Shuo, a powerful eunuch deeply favored by the emperor, had an uncle who violated the night curfew and went out at night. He was caught by Cao men. Cao did not give anyone a chance to plead for him. He directly gave the order and had the man beaten to death in front of everyone with the 5 colored staffs. This shook the entire city of Luoyang. Those arrogant people who usually behaved without restraint all became careful. Of course, they also hated Cao Cao so much that their teeth itched, but they could not find any fault to use against him. So these people joined together and used a more clever move. They all submitted memorials saying that a capable man like Cao Cao was wasted as a northern commandant and should be promoted. On the surface, this was praise. In reality, it was a way to push him away. Sure enough, the court soon promoted him to county magistrate of Dunshu and transferred him out of the capital. From this incident, you can already see the fierce determination deep in Cao Cao the nature. Once he believed something was right, he dared to challenge even the most powerful people and was not afraid of offending nobles. This kind of personality would certainly be battered and bruised in a peaceful bureaucracy. But the great chaos that was about to arrive would open an unprecedentedly huge stage for exactly this kind of person. In 100 known Undatsig ad, the northwestern warlord Dong Zhuro led his army into the capital Luoyang. Dong Zhuro was an extremely brutal man. His army burned, killed, looted, and committed every kind of evil in Luoyang. Dong Zhuro deposed the emperor at the time and installed another puppet emperor who was only 9 years old, later known as Emperor Xian of Han. Dong Zhuro's perverse and violent actions stirred anger across the country. Warlords and officials in different regions raised troops one after another. and formed an allied army to punish Dong Zhuo. Cao Cao also gave away all his family wealth at this time, recruited an army, and joined the alliance. After the Yellow Turban Rebellion broke out, the realm fell into constant warfare and warlords divided the land. The Ziliang warlord Dong Zhuo took the chance to lead troops into Luoyang, deposed the young emperor, installed Emperor Xian of Han, seized all power, killed and burned, and committed every kind of evil. Dong Zhuo greatly admires Cao Cao's talent and wanted to win him over, so he appointed him colonel of valiant cavalry. But Cao Cao knew very clearly in his heart that Dong Zhuo was brutal and lacked strategy. Following him would absolutely lead nowhere, and he would carry the name of traitor to the state for the rest of his life. He refused the appointment, changed his name, disguised himself as a commoner, and fled Luoyang alone in the night. It was this desperate escape that led to one of the most famous and most cruel historical cases in Chinese history. The story goes like this. Cao Cao fled Luoyang and passed through Chenggao, where he went to seek shelter with an old friend of his father's, a man named Liu Bei. When he arrived, Liu Bei himself was not at home. Only Liu Bei's sons and several guests were there. When they saw Cao Cao carrying horses and luggage, they probably became greedy and wanted to rob him. Cao Cao sensed their intention and, in fear and alarm, drew his sword and rose up, personally killing several people. Up to this point, it can still be described as self-defense or a conflict caused by misjudgment. But the problem comes afterward. About this incident, the historical records preserve 3 different versions. The first version is recorded in the Book of Wei, compiled by Cao Wei itself. It says that Liu Bei's sons and guests truly wanted to rob Cao Cao, so Cao Cao Dr. A.W. and his sword and killed them. This would count as legitimate self-defense. Of course, because it was written by people of Wei, later readers naturally suspect that it may have beautified their founding ancestor. The second version says that Cao Cao was staying in Liu Bei's home when he suddenly heard the sound of pots, bowls, and utensils clattering in the kitchen. At that time, he was being hunted across the country by Dong Zhuo, and his nerves were extremely tense. He suspected that the family was going to capture him for a reward, so he acted in the night and killed Liu Bei's entire household. This was no longer defense, but a mistaken killing caused by suspicion. By the third version, a chilling ending was added on top of the previous one. After Cao Cao realized he had killed the wrong people, he sighed in sorrow and said, "I would rather betray others than let others betray me." Please notice that the original line here is, "I would rather betray others than let others betray me." It does not include the words, "the whole world." Think carefully about that scene. Because of his suspicion, Cao Cao committed an irreversible mistake and killed the family of someone who had shown him kindness. In his heart, he was in pain and regret. But the matter had already happened, and he was still a fugitive. There was no way for him to make up for it. He could only use this sentence to relieve himself, comfort himself, and perhaps offer a very forced defense. What he meant was, now that things have come to this, I can only accept it. I would rather be the one who wrongs others than give others the chance to harm me. In these words, there is actually still a trace of helplessness and bitter conscience from a man standing close to death. But this bitter self-mockery after a mistaken killing later became an evil declaration openly made against the whole world. So tell me, how wronged was Cao Cao? He did kill people, and he did say harsh words, but the pain and struggle inside him were completely erased by later literary creation. On the contrary, Mao Zonggang, the literary critic of the late Ming and early Qing period, said something extremely sharp when commenting on Romance of the Three Kingdoms. He said, "This too is where Mengdi surpasses ordinary people." Even if this was a bad deed, it was still something that showed how Cao Cao went beyond ordinary people. Why? Mao Zonggang said that if someone else had done this, he would surely put on an act, crying bitterly and saying, "Oh, I would rather let everyone in the world wrong me than wrong anyone in the world myself." But in reality, what they did would still be exactly the kind of thing Cao Cao did. Only Cao Cao de Ado, to speak honestly about Zarathustra, the darkest side of himself. So, Cao Cao was a true petty man, not a false gentleman. From this point of view, he really was stronger than most hypocrites in this world. Let's put this story aside for the moment and continue looking at how Cao Cao moved step by step toward the center of power. After he fled Luoyang, he went to Chenliu, gave away all his family wealth, recruited soldiers, and called on the heroes of the realm to punish Dong Zhuo together. How miserable was Cao Cao at that time? He had only 5,000 men, his weapons and armor were incomplete, and he did not have enough grain or supplies. Meanwhile, Yuan Shao, the alliance leader chosen by the armies east of the pass, had many troops and generals, and his momentum was enormous. But when more than 100,000 allied soldiers were stationed at Suanzhou, holding feasts and drinking heavily every day, and not a single person dared truly attack Dong Zhuo, only Cao Cao, the weakest of them all, led his 5,000 new soldiers and advanced west alone. As a result, at Bian River, he ran into Dong Zhuo's great general Su Rong and was almost completely destroyed. His war horse was shot dead, and he himself was struck by an arrow in the arm. If his younger cousin Cao Hong had not given him his horse and said, "The realm can do without Hong, but it cannot do without you," Cao Cao would have died on the spot. Cao Cao barely escaped with his life back to the Allied headquarters, only to see that the lords were still drinking and had no real intention of fighting. Filled with grief and anger, he gave a speech in front of them, and finally left behind one sentence: "You gentlemen may turn north, I will go west alone. You may go north and bow to the emperor, I will go west alone to punish the traitor." From that moment on, Cao Cao completely understood reality. Not one of these people could be relied on. If he wanted to achieve something great, he could only rely on himself. This punitive war, which later generations placed such hope in, turned into a complete farce. The commander of this allied army was Yuan Shao. He came from a top aristocratic family of 4 generations and 3 dukes, roughly the most powerful great clan in China at the time. Yuan Shao and the generals of the alliance all raised the banner of rescuing the emperor, but in their hearts, what they were calculating was how to use the chance to expand their own territories. Every day in the allied camp, they drank wine and ate meat. No one was willing to be the first to risk his life against Dong Zhuo's regular army, because whoever acted first would spend his own strength first and therefore fall into a weaker position when the benefits were divided after the war. Looking at the faces of these so-called heroes, Cao Cao felt endless anger and disappointment. He decided to act alone. Cao Cao led his own poorly equipped and relatively small army west by himself, trying to fight Dong Zhuo's forces in a decisive battle. As a result, at Xingyang, Cao Cao met a fierce counterattack from Dong Zhuo's main force. Cao Cao's army was completely crushed, and he himself was struck by a stray arrow and nearly lost his life. This painful defeat became an important turning point in Cao Cao's life. He understood that those scholar gentry warlords from famous families who were always talking about benevolence, righteousness, and morality could not save the country at all. The only thing they cared about was the interest of their own families. In pain, Cao Cao reflected on what had happened. He realized that to end this chaotic age, he could not rely on those hypocritical nobles. He had to rely on his own strength, build a truly combat-capable army, and use iron and blood to reshape order. From this moment on, the Cao Cao who had once dreamed of becoming a capable minister in a peaceful age died, and a cold, practical hero of chaos, willing to use any means to reach his goal, was born. In 192 AD, Cao Cao received the first major turning point of his military career. At that time, a yellow turban rebel force from Qingzhou attacked Yanzhou, and the inspector of Yanzhou was killed in battle. The local officials, in order to protect themselves, invited Cao Cao to take control of Yanzhou. After Cao Cao took over, he used an extremely flexible strategy. On one hand, he used military force to strike the rebels. On the other hand, he used surrender and recruitment to break them apart. In the end, Cao Cao incorporated this enormous rebel force and selected the strongest soldiers from them, forming a core military force of his own. This was the famous Qingzhou army in history. With this army, Cao Cao finally had a stable base in northern China. He also did something that no other warlord at the time had understood: military farming. He took abandoned ownerless land under government control and distributed it to refugees and soldiers to farm. The state provided oxen, and the harvest was divided either 60% to the government and 40% to the people, or split evenly. Once this order was issued, they harvested 1 million hu of grain that same year. While Yuan Shao's army in Hebei was so hungry that they were eating wild dates, and Yuan Shu's army in the Jianghuai region was gathering river clams to fill their stomachs,
Cao Cao had solid grain stored in his warehouses. This laid the strongest foundation for his later campaigns across the land and his rise in the Central Plains. At the same time, he made an excellent political move. He welcomed Emperor Xian of Han. At that time, the Son of Heaven had been seized and fought over by Dong Zhuo's old subordinates Li Ju and Guo Si, and in the end, he fled back to Luoyang in a miserable state. But Luoyang had long been burned into scorched earth. The emperor and the officials did not even have food to eat. They could only dig up wild vegetables among broken walls and ruins, and many people starved to death. No warlord in the various regions wanted to deal with this trouble. But under the advice of his strategist Zun Yu, Cao Cao personally led troops and respectfully brought Emperor Xian to his own headquarters at Zuchang, giving him a proper palace, enough food, and the full dignity of the court. This move allowed Cao Cao to completely seize the high ground in politics. He could issue edicts to other warlords in the emperor's name. Anyone who dared disobey Cao Cao was resisting the court and committing great treason. This gave Cao Cao the moral initiative throughout the wars of annexation that followed. At the same time, by controlling the court, Cao Cao also drew large numbers of scholar gentry talents under his command. His power grew rapidly like a rolling snowball. He successively destroyed Liu Bei, Yuan Shu, and other separatist powers, gradually unifying most of northern China. This is what later generations call holding the emperor to command the lords. Without question, this move allowed Cao Cao to occupy the highest ground of political legitimacy from then on. Whenever he attacked someone, he could issue an edict in the emperor's name. But we must also see the other side. When all the warlords had abandoned that young emperor, only Cao Cao gave him a hot meal and gave the decaying Han dynasty a more dignified old age. After stabilizing the center, Cao Cao began his campaign to sweep the four directions. During this period, the decisiveness, cruelty, and extraordinary calm in his character were all shown to the fullest. When he attacked Yuzhou, his father Cao Song had been killed by subordinates of Tao Qian, the governor of Yuzhou. In a rage, Cao Cao led his army east and massacred cities along the way. The historical records say that the Sai River was blocked by the bodies. This was a bloody mark that could never be erased from Cao Cao's life, and it also revealed that once his bottom line was touched, an extremely terrifying desire for destruction could burst out of him. And in the war against the Wangcheng warlord Zhang Shu, he suffered one of the most painful blows of his life. Zhang Shu had originally surrendered, but Cao Cao did something disgraceful. He forcibly took Zhang Shu's aunt as his own. To Zhang Shu, this was a deep humiliation. Zhang Shu suddenly rebelled and launched a night attack on Cao Cao's camp. In this battle, Cao Cao's eldest son Cao Ang, his nephew Cao Anmin, and his most loyal personal guard and beloved general Dian Wei all died. Cao Cao himself was struck by an arrow in the right arm and almost died in the chaos. When he escaped back to Zuchang in disgrace and faced such a terrible pain of losing his son, he publicly admitted his mistake and did not shift the blame. But what is even more unbelievable is that 2 years later, when Zhang Shu, under the advice of the strategist Jia Su, came to surrender again, Cao Cao's behavior was enough to make anyone reading history feel a chill in the heart. Not only did he not pursue the revenge for his son's death, he personally held Zhang Shu's hand, attended a banquet with him, and even had his son Cao Jun marry Zhang Shu's daughter. He appointed Zhang Shu as general who raises martial power, and granted him the title of Marquis. In private, he said to Jia Su, "The one who has made me trusted by the realm is you. The reason I can gain a reputation for keeping trust before the people of the realm is all because of you." This was political calculation taken to the extreme of calmness. If he killed Zhang Shu, he could satisfy a moment of hatred, but all the other powers still watching the situation would fight him to the death. If he spared Zhang Shu, he could show the entire realm that even the revenge for the killing of his son could be put aside, so who else would he be unable to tolerate? You really do have to admire this kind of rationality. But at the same time, that kind of self-control, which could compress personal emotion into a vacuum for the sake of a great cause, also makes people feel a strange chill down the spine. As Cao Cao's power continued to expand, he finally met the greatest rival of his life and the most powerful warlord in the north, Yuan Shao. Yuan Shao came from a famous family. For 4 generations in a row, members of his family had held the highest 3 excellencies offices at court,
and his students and former subordinates were spread throughout the realm. In the eyes of many people at the time, Yuan Shao was the rightful master of the world. In 200 AD, Yuan Shao gathered 100,000 elite infantry and 10,000 cavalry and advanced in a mighty force towards Cao Cao the base at Suchang. At that time, Cao Cao had fewer than 30,000 soldiers he could actually put into battle, and his grain supplies were seriously lacking. This was the famous battle in Chinese history where the few defeated the many, the Battle of Guandu. At the beginning of the Battle of Guandu, Cao Cao was at an absolute disadvantage. Yuan Shao's army piled up earthen hills outside the camp and shot arrows into the Cao army's camp, so Cao Cao's soldiers could only walk while holding shields over themselves. Yuan Shao also dug tunnels to attack Cao Cao, while Cao Cao dug long trenches to block him. The two sides were locked in a standoff at Guandu for several months. Cao Cao's army was exhausted, their food was almost gone, and Cao Cao even began to think of withdrawing. At this critical moment between life and death, one of Yuan Shao's advisors, Su Yu, became angry because his family members had broken the law and had been arrested by officials under Yuan Shao. In anger, he defected to Cao Cao. This extreme calmness in Cao Cao also appeared very vividly on the battlefield. The best example is the Battle of Guandu, which decided who would control the north. At that time, Yuan Shao commanded 100,000 soldiers, and his grain and supplies were piled up like mountains. But Cao Cao had only 20 or 30,000 men, and his grain was almost exhausted. His situation was extremely dangerous. Right at this critical moment, Yuan Shao's advisor Su Yu suddenly came to join Cao Cao. The historical records say that as soon as Cao Cao heard Su Yu had arrived, he was overjoyed. He was so happy that he did not even have time to put on his shoes and ran out barefoot to welcome him. He clapped his hands and laughed, saying, "Ah, Ziwan!" Ziwan is his courtesy name, like a close and familiar way to address him. "Now that you have come, my great affair is settled." After he invited Su Yu into the military tent and had him sit down, Su Yu asked, "Lord Cao, how much military grain do you still have?" Cao Cao's eyes shifted and he smiled as he said, "Haha, well, my military grain is very sufficient. It can last at least 1 year." Su Yu's face darkened. "Tell the truth." Cao Cao immediately changed his words. "Well, I was joking just now. Actually, it can last half a year." Su Yu became furious and stood up to leave, saying, "I have sincerely come to join you, yet you used lies to deceive me." Cao Cao dragged him at once and said with a smile, "Do not be angry, do not be angry. I will tell you the truth. It can only last 1 month." Then he immediately followed with one question, "What should I do?" In other words, tell me what to do. Look at this detail. Cao Cao's cunning had already been carved into his bones. Even when facing the last straw that could save his life, his first reaction was still to test, to hold something back. But when he discovered that the other person truly had information and was truly sincere, he could instantly switch into the most honest and humble mode of asking for advice. Xu Yu told him that Yuan Shao's grain and supplies were all stored at Wuchao, and that the defending general Chen Yuchong loved drinking and was incompetent. As long as Cao Cao sent a light cavalry force to launch a night raid and burn the grain at Wuchao, Yuan Shao's army would fall into disorder in less than 3 days. Cao Cao made the decision immediately. He personally selected 5,000 elite soldiers, had the men hold wooden bits in their mouths, removed the bells from the horses, changed into Yuan army uniforms, and marched quickly through the night along small roads. On the way, when they met Yuan army sentries who questioned them, they answered, "We were sent by Lord Yuan to strengthen the defenses at Wuchao." After deceiving the sentries, they went straight to Wuchao and set fires on all sides. In an instant, flames shot into the sky, and Yuan's army fell into chaos. The deputy generals beside Cao Cao hurriedly reported, "The enemy is attacking from behind." Cao Cao did not even look back. He shouted, "Say that again when the enemy reaches my back. Right now, just charge forward." The whole army fought desperately and finally burned Yuan Shao's grain and supplies completely. This fire burned away Yuan Shao's dream of unifying the realm, and it also burned out the most brilliant battle of Cao Cao's life, where the few defeated the many. In this moment, if any one thing had been missing, deception, decisiveness, precise timing, or that gambler's courage to risk everything in a desperate situation,
Cao Cao would not have survived that night. In this story, when Su Yu asked about the military grain, Cao Cao lied several times in a row. This fully shows the cunning side of Cao Cao's character. In the extremely dangerous situation of the Battle of Guandu, Cao Cao did not even dare tell the truth to an old friend who had just come to join him. This kind of cunning was the ultimate expression of the survival rules of a chaotic age. In brutal military struggle, information is life. Cao Cao knew very well that at any time, he could not reveal his bottom card to another person, not even someone who seemed to be an ally. His cleverness lay in knowing when he should lie and when he should tell the truth. Toward enemies, he deceived without mercy. Toward Su Yu, only after confirming that Su Yu had fully defected to him and that he needed Su Yu's plan to save his life, did he finally reveal the truth. In a certain sense, this kind of cunning was also forced out of him. In such a dangerous environment, if he had told the honest truth in everything, he would never have been able to defeat his enemies. He could not avoid lying, and he even developed it into an instinctive defense mechanism. The Battle of Guandu laid the foundation for the unification of the North, and it also gives us another window through which to observe Cao Cao to humanity. In this battle, Su Yu was the man of greatest merit, but after winning great merit, Su Yu had one fatal flaw in his personality: arrogance. Relying on his achievement, he looked down on Cao Cao more and more. He often called Cao Cao by his childhood name, Aman, in public and in front of everyone. He would pat Cao Cao on the shoulder and say, "Aman, without me, Su Yu, would you be sitting here today?" in front of everyone. Cao Cao could only smile and say, "Yes, yes, Mr. Su is right. Without you, I truly would not have today." But Su Yu did not restrain himself at all. Once or twice might have been tolerable, but he said it wherever he went. Later, after they captured Yuan Shao's old base, Ye City, Su Yu again boasted of his merit in public. Pointing at the city gate, he said to the people around him, "See that? If not for me, the Cao family would never have entered this city in their entire lives." Cao Cao could no longer endure it. He did not hesitate and directly ordered Su Yu to be executed. The benefactor whom he had once run barefoot to welcome, the advisor who had brought him the key to victory, was killed by him just like that, once Cao Cao turned against him. This is another side of Cao Cao. Once you touched his bottom line and made him feel that his authority and face were being repeatedly damaged, he could become completely unmoved by old affection. Merit and fault were separated very clearly in his mind, and he would never hesitate just because someone had once done great service. But the same man, when facing some people who had truly offended him, even people who had cursed his ancestors for 8 generations, could show extraordinary tolerance. Before the Battle of Guandu, Yuan Shao wanted to attack Cao Cao, so he ordered his great writer Chen Lin to compose a proclamation of punishment. Chen Lin's literary talent was outstanding. In a long and forceful essay, he began by cursing Cao Cao's grandfather Cao Teng and went all the way down to Cao Cao himself, describing the whole family as worms that harmed the state and the people, using every possible sharp and cruel insult. Later, when Yuan Shao was defeated, Chen Lin was captured and everyone thought he was certainly dead. When Cao Cao saw Chen Lin, he opened by saying, "If you cursed me, that would be one thing, but why did you also curse my father and grandfather? They did nothing to you." Chen Lin was honest and said, "When the arrow is already on the string, it has to be released. I was ordered to write the text. In that situation, I had to curse harshly." After Cao Cao heard this, he actually laughed. Not only did he not punish Chen Lin, but because he valued Chen Lin's talent, he allowed him to continue serving as his writer, responsible for drafting important documents and announcements. This kind of breadth of mind is very hard to imagine coming from the same Cao Cao who killed Su Yu over repeated offense. But in the later novel, Romance of the Three Kingdoms, the author changed that line into, "I would rather betray the people of the world than let the people of the world betray me." Once the words, "the people of the world," were added, the nature of the sentence completely changed. When Cao Cao said it, he was speaking about that specific situation aimed at Liu Bei's household. But after the words, "the people of the world," were added, it became an evil declaration against humanity itself, as if he had been born to stand against all mankind.
This turned a flesh and blood person who made a wrong choice under extreme pressure into a flat, mask-like great villain. Even so, the late Ming and early Qing literary critic Mao Zedong still made a very profound comment when analyzing Romance of the Three Kingdoms. He said, "This too is where Monday surpasses ordinary people." What he meant was that this was precisely the part where Cao Cao went beyond ordinary people. Mao Zedong believed that if someone else had done this, even if that person was doing selfish things in his heart, his mouth would certainly say, "I would rather let everyone in the world wrong me than let myself wrong anyone in the world." The world is full of hypocrites who speak constantly of benevolence, righteousness, and morality while doing filthy things in secret. Only Cao Cao Gan Yu openly say such selfish words. Although he was cunning, there was also honesty inside that cunning. He was a true petty man, not a false gentleman. He dared to speak his cunning words openly and did not disguise his morality. In a false and chaotic age, this kind of honesty instead appears especially real and valuable. Honesty within cunning is exactly one of the core features of Cao Cao the character. Cao Cao's cunning seems to have been inborn. The historical records say that when he was young, he was alert and clever and understood tactics and power. But for someone who leads armies and fights wars, this kind of cunning is not surprising. In Cao Cao the character, there were many deeply contradictory qualities. He was both a cold and ruthless hero of chaos and also an extremely tender person. This contradictory character of ice and fire appeared most shockingly in how he handled family matters. As we mentioned earlier, during the campaign against Jiang Shu, his eldest son Cao Ang died in battle because of Cao Cao's mistake. Although Cao Ang was not born to Lady Ding, Cao Cao's former wife Lady Ding had no children of her own, and Cao Ang's birth mother had died early. This child had always been raised personally by Lady Ding, who poured all her heart and feeling into him. Now the son was gone, and the reason was actually her own husband's improper behavior. Lady Ding was devastated. Every day she cried and demanded that Cao Cao return her son. She pointed at his nose and cursed him. "You, as a father, spend all day chasing women outside, and now you have caused my son's death. Give me back my son." At first, Cao Cao knew he was in the wrong and endured it. But Lady Ding would not stop day or night. When Cao Cao's fierce temper rose, he shouted, "Stop making trouble! Go back to your mother's home!" Lady Ding really left without even turning her head. After about half a year, Cao Cao's anger had faded and he regretted it. He could not completely lower his pride, but he still drove a carriage himself and personally went to Lady Ding's family home to bring her back. Think about his status. He was Minister of Works at court, one of the most powerful people in the realm. When he bent down and walked into the courtyard, Lady Ding was sitting at a loom weaving cloth. When she heard him come in, she neither stood up to greet him nor turned around to look at him. Cao Cao walked over awkwardly, squatted beside the loom, stretched out his hand, and gently stroked Lady Ding's back. This action, stroking her back, in ancient times was a very gentle and deeply apologetic expression from a husband to his wife. He said in a very soft voice, "Stop being upset. Come back home with me in the carriage, all right?" The shuttle in Lady Ding's hand did not stop for even a moment. She kept weaving with a clacking sound and said nothing. Cao Cao waited patiently for a while, but his wife completely ignored him. He stood up, sighed, and said, "Then I really am leaving." Seeing that Lady Ding still gave no response, he had no choice but to walk out. When he reached the gate, he stopped again, turned back, looked at that silent figure, and asked one last time, "Are you really not going back with me? Is the bond between us as husband and wife truly over?" Lady Ding never gave him any answer. Cao Cao knew that nothing could be repaired. He did not rage. He did not threaten her. He walked out the door, found his old father-in-law, and said, "I have wronged your daughter. She is still young. Do not let her just remain like this. Let her marry again." You have to understand, in that era, for a man of Cao Cao's position to say, "Let her marry again," meant that he had truly let go of possession, admitted his own fault, and thought about the other person's future. Although in the end, no one dared marry her, and Lady Ding did not remarry, the guilt and affection contained in those words were real. This matter became the greatest knot in Cao Cao's heart for the rest of his life. It is said that before his death, what he spoke of was not the state, not the realm, and not the great enterprise left unfinished. Instead, with endless regret and sorrow, he said, "In this life, I have done good things and I have done bad things. Whether I succeeded or failed, there is nothing I truly care about. There is only one thing that I cannot put down. If I arrive in the underworld and Zixiu, meaning Cao Ang, cries and asks me for his mother, how should I answer him? A man of iron and blood, cursed by people as a treacherous hero, carried as his final concern this guilt toward his dead son and his former wife, this deep feeling and the coldness he showed when killing people and massacring cities were like ice and burning coal placed in the same furnace. When Cao Cao was dying, he said something like this: "In this life, I have done good things and bad things. There were places where I succeeded and places where I made mistakes. I do not care. There is only one thing. When I go underground, when I reach the Yellow Springs, if Zixiu, meaning Cao Ang, cries and makes a fuss, asking me for his mother, I do not know how to answer him." Think about how many mistakes Cao Cao made in his life, how many people he killed, yet he actually believed that his greatest mistake was driving his wife away, causing his son to have no mother to care for him underground. This fully shows that Cao Cao was a deeply emotional person, a person who valued feeling and attachment. But Cao Cao was also a man with a very strong desire for revenge. Almost anyone who offended Cao Cao and had no value for him would hardly escape his retaliation. At that time, there was a famous scholar named Bianrong. Bianrong was a learned man and wrote excellent essays, but he looked down on Cao Cao's eunuch background and said many insulting things about him. Later, after Cao Cao captured that region, he showed no mercy and had Bianrong killed. This incident had a terrible impact and immediately triggered a rebellion. Many cultured scholars felt that Cao Cao was too brutal and left him one after another. One of them was Chen Gong. It was for this reason that he left Cao Cao and went to join Liu Bei. Later, Liu Bei was defeated and Chen Gong became a prisoner. Cao Cao still did not want to kill him and tried to persuade him to surrender. Chen Gong firmly refused. Cao Cao had no choice but to execute him. Before killing him, Cao Cao asked, "Gong Tai, if you die, what will happen to your mother?" Chen Gong said, "I have heard that those who govern the world with filial piety do not kill other people's parents." Cao Cao said, "Then what about your wife and children?" Chen Gong said, "I have heard that those who govern the world with benevolence do not harm other people's children." Cao Cao said, "Very well, then I will send you on your way." Then he began to cry, and while crying, he escorted Chen Gong to the execution ground. After that, he brought Chen Gong's family into his own household and treated them even better than before Chen Gong had turned against him. Cao Cao's tears carried regret for Chen Gong, but also remorse for his own reckless killing of famous scholars in those earlier years. He knew he had been wrong, but that vengeful side of his character made it very hard for him to change. Cao Cao's way of using talent is one of the most famous in Chinese history. He issued 3 recruitment orders for worthy men and clearly proposed the principle of appointing people only according to talent. In China at that time, selecting officials mainly depended on the recommendation system, which meant looking at a person's moral reputation and family background. But Cao Cao broke this rule. He said, "I do not care whether you come from a famous family, and I do not care whether you have moral flaws. Even if you are not benevolent or filial, as long as you have the ability to govern the state and command armies, I will give you an important position." This practical view of talent completely broke the scholar gentry clan's monopoly over political power and allowed Cao Cao to recruit many people from lower backgrounds who were extremely talented. What he valued was ability, not hypocritical moral packaging. In 208 AD, after basically unifying the north, Cao Cao led a great army south, trying to destroy Liu Bei of Jingzhou and Sun Quan of Jiangdong in one move. Liu Bei of Jingzhou had just died of illness, and his son Liu Kong surrendered without a fight. Cao Cao occupied Jingzhou without shedding blood, then moved east along the river, pointing straight toward Jiangdong. At that time, Cao Cao was full of high spirits. On a warship by the Yangtze River, he drank wine and wrote the famous poem, short song style, "With wine before me, I sing. How long is human life? Like morning dew, the days already gone are far too many." This poem is full of bleakness and tragic grandeur, and it also shows Cao Cao's great ambition to gather all the talent in the world and unify the realm. He longed for talent as urgently as he longed for sunlight. However, history did not follow Cao Cao's script. At Red Cliffs, Cao Cao's army encountered disease, and because northern soldiers were not used to naval warfare, they were defeated by the allied forces of Sun Quan and Liu Bei using a fire attack. Cao Cao led his defeated soldiers back north in disgrace through Huarong Road. The defeat at Red Cliffs completely shattered Cao Cao's dream of unifying China, and from then on, Chinese history entered the period of the Three Kingdoms standing against one another: Wei, Shu, and Wu. After the Battle of Red Cliffs, Cao Cao's power was greatly weakened, but he still firmly controlled northern China. In his later years, Cao Cao's power reached its peak. He was successively made Duke of Wei and King of Wei, and he also received the honor of the 9 bestowments. In ancient China, the 9 bestowments were the 9 highest ceremonial gifts an emperor could grant to a powerful minister, and they were usually a sign that usurpation was about to happen. Although Cao Cao held absolute power, he never took the final step of declaring himself emperor. Someone advised him to become emperor, but Cao Cao said, "If heaven's mandate lies with me, then let me be King Wen of Zhou." He left the task of becoming emperor to his son, Cao Pai. Why did Cao Cao not declare himself emperor? Behind this was deep political calculation. On one hand, Cao Cao knew very well that although the Eastern Han Dynasty existed only in name, it still had enormous influence in the hearts of people throughout the realm. If he rashly declared himself emperor, it would surely give Liu Bei, Sun Quan, and others a reason to attack him, and it would also cause a strong backlash from the scholar gentry within his own side. On the other hand, in his earlier order-yielding counties to make clear my original ambition, Cao Cao明确ly stated that he had no ambition to usurp Han. He only wanted to be a general who campaigns west of the Han dynasty, and after death it would be enough for his tombstone to read, "The Tomb of Cao, Marquis and former general who campaigns west of Han." Whether this was truly from his heart or a political performance, throughout his entire life, Cao Cao maintained the identity of a minister of Han. Through his actual actions, he preserved the last bit of dignity for the Han dynasty and also paved the way for his son. In 220 AD, Cao Cao died of illness in Luoyang at the age of 66. Before his death, he left behind a will, the famous Final Instructions. This will had no grand heroic words, no discussion of major state affairs, and no summary of his political merits and faults. In the will, Cao Cao arranged his funeral affairs in a casual, almost household way. He said that after he died, the incense kept in that room should be divided up and not wasted. As for his concubines and singing girls, they had all worked hard throughout their lives and had served him well, so they should not be mistreated. They should continue living at Bronzeberg Terrace and should not be driven away. Since these people will be idle anyway, what could they learn to do? They could learn to weave straw shoes with silk ribbons. If the Cao family ever became poor in the future, they could sell those shoes for food. This will caused great controversy at the time. Many scholar officials believed that, as a hero of chaos for an age, Cao Cao should have said something inspiring before death, or at least said something to encourage later generations. Instead, he gave instructions about dividing incense and selling straw shoes, these tiny everyday matters. What kind of dignity was that? Even the great Song dynasty writer Su Dongpo gave an 8-character judgment. In life, treacherous and false. In death, his true nature appears. Su Dongpo believed that Cao Cao had been cunning and treacherous all his life, and before death, he finally gave himself away. The fox's tail had shown itself, and deep down he was still a petty man. But if we look at it from another angle, this will actually shows the most real and most lovable side of Cao Cao. He did not care how others judged him. He did not need to use empty heroic words to package himself. He was simply a flesh and blood person. He cared about his family and about the future of the women who had served him for a lifetime. He faced his own death honestly, and he also faced his own worldly and ordinary side honestly. He thought that the Cao family might one day become poor and asked the women of the household to learn how to weave straw shoes for a living. This was an extremely practical and down-to-earth kind of thinking. This free and natural quality, where only a true great hero can remain himself and only a true famous scholar can be naturally unrestrained, is exactly where Cao Cao surpassed the hypocritical scholar officials of his age. He dared to tear off the mask of the politician and reveal the warmth and concern of an ordinary husband and ordinary father.
Looking back over Cao Cao's life, he grew from the adopted grandson of a eunuch, a man with an awkward background, into a hero of chaos who unified the north. He experienced countless betrayals, failures, and tests of life and death. In his character, there was deceit, but also honesty, warmth, but also cruelty, broad-mindedness, but also narrowness. He killed with decision, yet he loved talent as if his life depended on it. He was cruel and ruthless, yet he could shed tears deep in the night for the son and wife he had lost. He is one of the most complex and many-sided figures in Chinese history. He was brilliantly intelligent, yet sometimes terribly foolish, cunning and treacherous, yet frank and sincere, broad and generous, yet suspicious and uneasy, magnanimous, yet narrow-minded. You could say he had the bearing of a great man and the face of a petty man, the spirit of a hero and the feelings of an ordinary family man, the temper of Yama and the heart of a bodhisattva. So how should we define Cao Cao? He was cunning. At Guandu, he could deceive Su Yu without changing his expression. He was cruel. Because of his own personal anger, he could turn Zhuzhou into rivers of blood, and he could kill the meritorious but arrogant Su Yu in the blink of an eye. He was tolerant. He could accept Chen Lin, who had cursed his ancestors for generations, and he could also accept Zhang Xu, the enemy who had caused his son's death. He was cold. In weighing interests, he could compress emotion down to zero. He was deeply emotional. Before Lady Ding, he could put aside all his authority, and before death, he still could not stop thinking about her. He was never a flat symbol. He hated hypocrisy. Even when he did bad things, he dared to say the words that cut most deeply into the human heart. He would rather be a true petty man cursed by the world than a false gentleman whose mouth was full of benevolence and righteousness. In Chinese culture, judging a historical figure is often not a matter of pure black and white. Cao Cao was not a perfect sage. He made many mistakes, killed many innocent people, and sometimes used extremely base methods. But he also ended wars in the north, restored agricultural production, and protected countless common people. He promoted the principle of appointing people by talent alone and broke through rigid class barriers. His literary talent also left a powerful mark in the history of Chinese literature. He and his sons opened the age of Jianan literature and left behind countless famous works filled with boldness, grief, and grandeur. Cao Cao was a lovable, treacherous hero. Treacherous hero explains the cruelty of his methods and the cunning of his character, while lovable explains the truthfulness, frankness, and human warmth within him. Cao Cao did not hide his desires, and he did not fake his morality. He dared to carry the curses of history, and he also dared to show his own weakness. He was like a mirror, reflecting the cruelty of a chaotic age, and also reflecting the complexity of human nature.
If you enjoyed today's episode, feel free to give the show a like, subscribe, and share it with someone you think would enjoy it too. Thank you for spending this time with me. I will see you in the next episode.
The sky in light, Nua healed the broken heart. Fuxi traced the world's design. Every age leaves stories bright. Yaya dynasty shaped bronze. Shang dynasty cast oracle bones. Thou dynasty built right. Qin dynasty forged the great walls. Han dynasty opened Silk Road winds. age leave stories bright. History and myth ignite in endless light. China's history moves in mystery through the night. Footsteps of this land enchant the world in light. Three Kingdoms dynasty turn war to tales. Qin dynasty led ink and mountains bloom. Sui dynasty carved the Grand Canal. Tang dynasty crowned the world with art. Song dynasty raised learn